Welcome to the We Chat Divorce podcast. Conversations about real people, real situations, and real divorce. We're your hosts, Karen Shalou and Catherine Shanahan, co-founders of My Divorce Solution, share their personal and professional experience to demystify the big business of divorce.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to We Chat Divorce. First of all, this is kind of a big day here in the office because it's Catherine's birthday. Happy birthday, Catherine.
Thank you. It's a good year. It's an even number.
That's awesome. And you got to eat lunch. We do allow lunches on birthdays. That's all good.
Let's not define lunch.
We had food. How about that? But speaking of birthdays, and now that we've survived Thanksgiving, I think we want to talk today about holidays and how you approach those as you're going through the divorce process, or if it's your first one or your fifth one, because holidays, birthdays, vacations, all of those former family events have to be kind of redefined. And it's an ongoing question and an ongoing conversation. So
it's interesting because when you're in an unhappy marriage and the holidays come, they can be stressful because you're fighting over something or you're pretending to be happy. And in your head, you keep thinking, well, gosh, I can't wait for the divorce finally gets here because then I'll get to have my own holidays. Well, it's not that first holiday that it's all cheery. You know, it takes time to get through it. It's not just, okay, we're divorced and it's going to be easier now. Or you could have been having nice holidays when you were married and that's the only time it was nice. But then the holidays come and now you don't know what to do because you don't think they're going to be as nice.
Right. And whether you have kids or not, so let's say you don't have kids, you're still facing the holidays in a different way, whether it's no longer with your in-laws or that extended family, and what do you do and how do you make new holidays for yourself? Or how do you establish new holidays for yourself when your children are with your ex-husband or your ex-wife? It's highly challenging. I remember my first Thanksgiving after the divorce, or not necessarily after the divorce, but after we had the custody arrangements set in place. And it was not my year to have Thanksgiving with the kids, and they were very young. So it was a very challenging day. My family lives out of state, so I was pretty much by myself the entire day, which was neither here nor there. I knew that was coming. It was hard, but it was what it was. However, the kids came home on Saturday and reported to me that they had been at my baby sister's house, which was about an hour away, and I didn't go there for Thanksgiving. They didn't invite me, and I don't know why.
Wait, so they were supposed to be with their dad, and you were alone, and now they're reporting to you that they went to your family's house, your younger sister's house.
My younger sister's house, and my husband was obviously invited there. So that really set me back on my heels, wondering, wow, what does the future hold? It did take my family some time to kind of understand our divorce and come to terms with it.
So did your sister call you that day? Did she tell you that they were coming, or even afterwards?
Wow. No. I was in a situation where my family didn't really support the divorce, probably more for religious reasons than anything. And I'm not even looking back, I'm not even sure how that all transpired because I don't necessarily remember being in a disagreement. But I just remember just feeling betrayed on
I was going to say,
a couple levels.
A sense of betrayal there.
And the kids were clueless. They were, we were at, Auntie's house and we had a great time and we missed you. So that was a highly challenging first holiday for me, and I'm sure many people would have similar stories about how they manage through, whether it's, being in very uncomfortable situations for the kids' sakes, or, just kind of being alone and not falling apart.
Well, that's a really challenging issue because now it is, you're thinking about the sense of betrayal and who do you express it to, because you're happy your kids had a nice time. So not only do you have to get over the holiday itself, but now it extends beyond the holiday, which is, does your sister really have your back? And did she ever have your back? And will she have your back?
Yeah.
And I think the holidays, people get really upset. We're going to miss that side of the family, and then to miss your own side of the family moving forward. How do you get over that? And how do you just let it go and move on to the next holiday? Will it happen again? Because now you're always questioning every holiday. So a lot of people right now, I'm finding, are asking,
what do I do? Do I show up for the kids' sake? Do I just stay away because it's so uncomfortable? And I do believe every situation is unique unto itself, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even with my own situation, my children didn't go to the dad's house for Christmas because they didn't like the living arrangements that were going on there. And they would always go out to dinner Christmas Eve. And then he would ask if he didn't ask, they asked, can Dad come over after dinner to open our gifts with him? And it wasn't the gifts that they were getting for me. They were the gifts that he bought for them. And I, of course, I swallowed my pride and I sucked it in and I said, yes, of course, come over. And I would put some wine and cheese out for him and his dad and watch him opening the extravagant gifts that he would get them and just say, wow, that's great. How nice, how nice. And part of me inside was breaking down a little bit, but you just sit there and say it's all for your kids, it's all for your kids. But let's be honest, how many times can we all say it's all for your kids?
Yeah. And at some point I feel like emotionally you have to be ready for that step. And if you're not, it doesn't benefit anyone for you to be there so uncomfortable. But I guess if you were comfortable enough that you could do that and make the kids feel comfortable, then it was worth doing. But if you were there choking tears and having a lot of negative energy, that wouldn't have been good for anybody.
No, I didn't choke. I didn't cry or anything. I didn't cry or let those emotions out. However, we did that for 6 years. And last year, when he left, my daughter said something to the effect of, well, that was uncomfortable. And I said, why? And she said, Mom, sometimes you and Dad make these little comments and it makes us uncomfortable. And I didn't really realize that we made these little comments that made them uncomfortable. So even though we're sitting there all nice and doing the oohs and ahs of the gifts, I guess some of my snide little remarks or his back about something in the past or something, they really honed in on it. And they're older, they're young adult children. So I had to really reflect and say to myself,
wow,
self.
So you have to really figure out how good it is for the kids then.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that's finished. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But if I'm giving anyone else advice, I think it worked out well because it gave them a place to open their gifts and just unwind. But if I were to do it over again for the next 6 years, I would really be conscious of what I was saying. And those little undertoned remarks, although not aggressive and not filled with tears or hatred in any way, shape, or form, the way they came across was being perceived by my children as something that was uncomfortable.
Yeah. For us, it really worked. We didn't have the type of relationship where we could be under the same roof for many years. It's a different relationship now and everything is fine, but the kids were young. It was a very high tension custody battle. So it was really rough. But what we were able to do is we didn't necessarily switch out. So 1 year Christmas with Dad and 1 year Christmas with Mom and 1 year this and 1 year that. We split the holiday so that the kids could count on every Christmas Eve with Mom and every Christmas Day with Dad. So I think that made it easier for our family because then you could still establish those traditions and we still carry them through. And to this day, they're independent kids, old, they don't live at home anymore, but they still honor the traditions of Christmas Eve with Mom and Christmas Day with Dad. So I think that's good.
That's good. And they had the consistency and it worked.
Yeah.
And we did the same thing. We didn't have a real set agreement other than I would say ask Dad if he has plans for Christmas Eve to do something or Christmas. It doesn't matter to me. I'll take either day. It's fine with me.
Yeah.
And I do know other families that will they actually split it the week. So they either get from when school is over until the day after Christmas with one parent, and then from the day after Christmas through New Year's Day with the other parent, and the next year it flip-flops, you know. And my only caution to that is, you know, some people feel Christmas is one of the most emotional days for them, or Hanukkah, or
Christmas morning. I don't know if I could have survived a Christmas morning alone.
So it's nice to be able to say to your kids, if you want to go see Mom today, go see her. If you live close enough that you can make that quick little arrangement, even though it's not supposed to be their day. And I say that with any holiday or any visitation schedule. I always say, if something's coming up and, you know, think of the other parent.
Yeah, and I think you were in a position that you could say that because that relationship allowed for that. In a situation like mine, I think it was really important that we held fast to our schedule so that the kids didn't get stuck in the middle, because they certainly could have easily been stuck in the middle. And then as they got older, then they could decide if, you know, they wanted more time at Dad's or Mom's or whatever the case may be according to their schedule.
Which also holds true for when you stay married. You know, they say children need guidelines, they need rules, and, you know, it helps for raising your children. Yeah. So it's the same thing in divorce. You know, having that guideline and having those set rules really helped your children know that they didn't need to make the decision, that this was the rule. And even though they wanted to be with Mom, they had to be with Dad. Yeah. But in being with Dad, they benefited because they got to see him, even if they were mad at him, and vice versa. You know, Mom's being mean, but I have to go. And a lot of those times they really do want to go, but because they're mad at you or they think you're being mean, they'll act like they don't want to go. Yeah. Like, I'm only here because the rule says it, you know. Yeah. And it's the same thing if you are married. So if you can remember to keep that frame of mind through the process and parent the way you would either way.
Yeah. That reminds me, I remember when my son was about 16 and he was at his dad's. And for whatever reason, he was angry with me. And so he got Dad on his side and, you know, they were talking about Mom. So he calls me and yelling or whatever. He was upset with me. And he said, I'm just going to stay with Dad for the summer. So, of course, in my heart, I'm crying, falling apart. Oh, no, I'm a terrible mom. But I said to him, you do what you feel is best for you. You know, do it. So he came home, got his stuff, and went back to Dad's. Within 24 hours, he was calling me. No, he wasn't back. He was calling me, Mom, I want to come home. And you know what I said? No, you committed to being there this summer.
You made him stay this summer?
I made him stay this summer. So he was working for his dad. He never pulled that again.
Good. It was a good lesson for him.
Well, it was. And you know what? Love. He was teetering back and forth, and I knew if I let him come back at his age, he was 16. Remember, he's 16. He's got a driver's license. He's independent. And if he could kind of pull that between Mom and Dad, it wasn't going to be good for anybody. So it was really, really hard. And I remember him coming back being just so grateful to be home. Right. And he's never challenged me on that. He's never told me that was a negative thing in his life. So I'm happy about that, because you always wonder, I don't know if this is a good decision.
It was probably a defining moment for him, because we all know that when you get divorced, our kids are smart.
Yeah, they are smart.
And they're going to play one parent against the other whenever it's to their benefit. Yeah. But even when you're married, they'll do the same thing. You know, so if you holding still steady like that for you, I mean, kudos to you. That would be hard to do. I probably would have said, okay, come back, because I want you to come back.
I did want him to come back, but the caveat there was he was working for his dad.
Right.
So, you know, it's a little bit more of a complicated situation, but yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, he didn't like the rules at Mom's house, and so he was challenging those. And I respect that, but maybe the rules aren't so bad.
Right.
You know?
Right. No, rules are good.
Yeah. So I think what we all like to consider is what we wish we would have known.
Know that whether your kids are with you or not with you, they're thinking of you. They love you. It's a day, a moment in time. And so we all say it's never really about the quantity of time, it's the quality of time. So create your new traditions or your new moments or new experiences and build on those.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll too look forward to that new experience as well. I mean, I'm 7 years out now, and I started enjoying my alone time to have my dinner for an hour or two, and then they came back, So
Mm-hmm.
you will survive it. Embrace it. Embrace that this is your new norm.
Mm-hmm.
And respect that they shouldn't make these decisions, that you want them to have a nice experience with their dad or
Mm-hmm.
mom, if it is.
Yeah.
Because that's what they need.
Yeah. That's good. And just to add to that a little bit, I found myself reminding myself as the kids were growing up that even though I didn't want to live with him anymore, it didn't negate the fact that I married him and that the children are a product of our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so why would it help them for me to be negative about their father? It just doesn't help.
I do have one thing though, and I it's always good to get our perspectives because I'm a stepmom.
Yeah.
And you were the mom whose children were stepmom. So we really do provide a good insight to how both parties see. And now that I'm older and wiser and it's been, 30 years later, I also get to empathize with the other side more than I would have during my marriage. And, we've talked about this before. But on those, so things that I used to do when I had children, and this could help people or not, but Santa would come in the morning. So my children's gifts would be towards the front of the tree. And then Santa's would put my 3 stepdaughters' gifts towards the back of the tree. So my 2 children would see that their sisters, Santa also came to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember one time my daughter saying, "Mommy, why don't my sisters have as many presents from Santa?" And they would have a lot. So we definitely spoiled our children by giving them too many gifts at Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that they didn't have it's not like they had one gift there. And I'm sure that my stepchildren would support me saying this. They would be in agreement, And my ex was really give them a lot type of guy too. So there was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to say, well, because Santa goes to their mommy's house too. So their other half of their gifts are at the mommy's house. And then my children I would bring some of their gifts upstairs because I didn't want to remind my stepchildren that their sister and brother were getting more here, even though they were getting the same because they were getting stuff at their mom's. It was different. It was still a different thing. So during all those 20 years, because the kids were little when I got together with them, I don't think they ever really felt that they weren't loved or weren't experiencing Christmas. They came over at 1:00 on Christmas, every Christmas. That's what their arrangement was.
Mm-hmm.
So they were always with their mom Christmas Eve, and they always woke up with their mom Christmas morning. But at 1:00, we would pick them up, and they would have the rest of the day with us. So what I would do is when my ex was picking them up, by the time that they got there, I had moved my kids' stuff towards the back of the tree. And I would bring half of their things upstairs. And then I would put their gifts all out in the front of the tree, and we would watch them open their gifts. So it never looked like they didn't have as much as my children did there. Yeah. So they always grew up knowing that this was how our family was going to work.
Yeah.
So
I don't think all kids have that benefit.
No, I don't think they do either. But if you're listening to this and you're experiencing how do I handle my children and my stepchildren and make them feel like this is a place where we're all equal. I know part of me struggled when I was younger saying, well, it's my right to get my kids more things. And their mom gets them things and she doesn't get my children things. So it's equal. But then I had to sit back and be mature enough to say, but I don't want them to feel like that when they're here. I don't want them to feel like my kids are getting, their sister and brother are getting so much more than they are in this house because they don't really understand that.
Yeah.
So I had to say to the kids, let's just put it upstairs, and my children never questioned it. And they never talked it. They really never said, look what I got. It was never one of those things except for like their favorite toy. So if you're listening and this is going to be a Christmas where you have to start with a blended family, just in the back of your head say, whether I like this or not, how can I make sure that the kids feel loved and that we're experiencing this holiday together? And it's really about being grateful that you have a blended family, because in a way that is a gift.
It is a gift. And I didn't really have to deal with any of that because for both of us, my ex, we didn't have other kids in the mix. So that was different. But I think if I was going to reflect on what I wish I would have known, was that no matter what, whether the kids were angry with me about house rules or whether they were at their dad's or whatever the case may be, that nothing could replace my love for them and their love for me, that would always be a constant. And I think when you, as a mom, you always wonder, do they love me less? Will they love their stepmother more because she does these things with them that I don't do? So I'm terrible at crafts, and my daughter's stepmother would do crafts, and they loved animals, and we didn't have animals. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my kids. But as I look back now, I know that nothing could have ever changed their
love for you.
No, I'll always be their mom.
Right.
But I didn't know that in the moment, and it was terrifying.
And I didn't know in the moment that their mom was really upset that she probably just thought I looked like the better person because they were bringing different gifts home that she wasn't able to give them, being in a different financial position. I knew that she wasn't happy that they were getting more things from their dad, more expensive things. I did hear that. I could recall hearing that.
Yeah.
But, I never talked negatively about their mother to them. Mine was always, what'd you get at your mommy's house? That's so fabulous, And we did communicate a little bit. I remember, if we're thinking now, what are the big items that the kids want, and to make sure which parent was getting it and not getting it.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want to embarrass the other parent by you both getting something that you searched for, or you planned out, or anything like that. But now in hindsight, I probably would have been a little bit more conscious of, let me think about how this mom is reacting.
Yeah.
And again, that's with maturity now,
Yeah, and it's not a competition, but in the moment you don't know that. Even if you don't really appreciate the behavior of the stepmom and what's going on.
Wait a minute. What do you say? What do you mean by that? Because it's not in competition. So if I go back to my 25-year-old self, or my 28-year-old self, I should say, and who's 20-year-olds, nobody really should be walking around with 3 stepchildren the way I was. Well, but I did. Right, that's true too. But I mean, meaning maturity-wise.
Okay.
Although I'm old, and I'm considered an old soul, so I was more mature to be able to handle that.
You are so mature.
I am an old soul for real now, but I'm 52 today. Yay! I love the 50s. But is it really more competitive amongst the adults and not so much the kids?
Oh, it's totally competitive amongst the adults. It totally is. But it doesn't need to be if you can rely on the fact, it's a fact, that no matter what, another relationship cannot affect your relationship. There's certain things you can do to make that happen, but if you're just who you are and you love them and you continue with that relationship, the mother-child relationship or the father-child relationship, another person can't change that. They may have a close relationship with another person, but that's
I totally agree with that.
And then when you grow up, then you're going to be a grandparent. Then these kids have so many grandparents. Talk about needing to be confident in who you are.
So we all have to remember during this holiday season that our competition with the other adult involved is pointless. Because it doesn't matter what you give or what you get. It's how you behave that will make these children love you. And it doesn't matter if that other parent doesn't love you, but it does matter that you respect each other. Because without that, you're giving your kids the biggest disservice.
Yeah, because they only know how to pattern behavior.
And that's what they'll remember.
That's all they were going to pattern behavior.
They'll forget the Barbie doll you went and searched for 5 hours or 10 hours, but they'll remember that you were not nice about their mom,
Yeah.
or you were not nice about their dad, or you made them feel uncomfortable or unloved. That's what they'll remember.
They'll never forget how you made them feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we all have that ability with any relationship we have.
So when you say Merry Christmas and you say Happy Hanukkah, let's remember the merry and remember the happy and what they really represent. And what they say is, what do they say? Do unto others as you want done unto you.
I love it. Yeah. And I always say, when you look back on your life at the end and you imagine yourself looking back, what will be important to you then? That really helps you keep things in check.
Because people remember not always what you say, but they remember how you make them feel. And this is the season for loving. So we hope you all have a really great holiday. And just smile knowing that when you do the best that you can at the time you're doing it, and you do it from a place that's coming from the heart, that you can't go wrong.
And it's enough.
And it's enough. Happy holidays, everyone.